So, we've all gotten pretty used to AI that can write an email or create a wild image, right? But what's the next big thing? Well, today we're diving into the next evolution, Agentic AI. This is where AI stops just creating things and actually starts doing them.
I mean, really think about that for a second. Imagine an AI that doesn't just draft your marketing plan, but then goes and books the flights for the conference, manages the entire ad campaign, and even reorders supplies when they run low, all by itself. That's the huge shift we're talking about. And this really nails the core difference. Generative AI, the stuff most of us use every day, is basically reactive. You give it a prompt, it spits out some content. But Agentic AI? It's proactive. You give it a goal, and it becomes this little project manager, pulling together all sorts of different tools and systems to get it done.
So, to really get our heads around this, here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with what it even means for an AI to act. Then, we'll look at what makes it agentic, how these things think, check out some real-world examples, and finally, separate the hype from the reality.
All right, first up, AI that acts. This is really about changing how we think about AI. We're moving away from seeing it as just a clever tool and more like a digital coworker, an active partner that can actually handle complex, multi-step jobs.
So what is it exactly? Well, Agentic AI is a system you can give a goal to and it just runs with it. It needs very little hand-holding. It can figure out its own smaller goals, make plans, remember what it's already done, and hook into different software to see a project through to the end.
And if you're going to remember just one word from all of this, let it be this one: proactiveness. Instead of just sitting there waiting for your next command, it's already thinking 3 steps ahead, figuring out what needs to happen next to hit that main goal.
Okay, so what's the secret sauce here? What actually gives these AI systems their autonomy? Let's break it down and look at the key ingredients that make an AI truly agentic.
It all comes down to a few key things working together. You've got goal-driven behavior. It's always working towards some objective. It has both short and long-term memory, so it has context. It uses sophisticated reasoning to chop up big goals into smaller, manageable tasks. And here's the kicker: it can interface with external tools, your calendar, a database, whatever, and it can keep working without you looking over its shoulder.
And here's a really useful way to think about a key difference. An AI agent is like a single task tool, kind of like your GPS. You tell it where to go, and it gives you directions. Simple. Agentic AI is the whole system. It's the self-driving car. It's using a bunch of different agents, the GPS, the sensors, the steering controls, all working together to understand the world and make complex decisions on its own. Okay, so we know what it is and what its building blocks are. But how does an agentic system actually, think? How does it operate? Well, it all boils down to this continuous 4-step cycle.
So everything hinges on this loop. First, it perceives, which means it's pulling in data from all over the place. Then, it reasons. This is where a large language model acts like the brain, making sense of all that data and coming up with a plan. Next, it acts, using other software and tools to actually execute that plan. And finally, and this is so important, it learns. The outcome of its actions feeds back into the system, creating this data flywheel that helps it get smarter over time.
Now, I know this can all sound a little bit abstract, but this stuff is already out there making a huge impact. So let's look at some real-world examples. And as we do, you'll see that 4-step cycle we just talked about, perceive, reason, act, and learn, is at the core of every single one.
Take the world of finance, which is buried in regulations. Agents are being used to handle compliance. They can monitor thousands of transactions, cross-reference them with the latest rules, and even generate the necessary reports automatically.
And the results are just incredible. We are talking about a 60 to 80% drop in the time people have to spend on this super detailed, tedious work. That frees up the actual human experts to focus on big-picture strategy instead of just paperwork. Or how about logistics? Think about all the chaos that goes into scheduling a single delivery. Traffic, weather, which drivers are available, package priorities. Agentic systems can juggle all of those variables in real time.
And by constantly optimizing all those routes, these agents are cutting fuel use and delivery times by up to 30%. I mean, that is a massive win for the company's budget and for the environment. And we're all familiar with customer service. Well, agents are becoming the new front line. They can sort through incoming problems, solve the common ones instantly, and then intelligently route the really tricky or sensitive cases to the perfect human agent, along with a full summary of what's happened so far.
And the future here is huge. The research firm Gartner is projecting that by 2029, these AI systems will be able to resolve 80% of common customer service issues all by themselves. No human needed.
If we zoom out and look at the whole picture, the adoption rate is about to just explode. Today, less than 1% of enterprise software has this agentic AI built in. But by 2028, that number is predicted to jump to 33%. This isn't some niche tech. It's on its way to becoming a core part of how businesses run.
Now, with all of this amazing potential, it is so easy to get carried away by the hype. But we need to take a deep breath and ground ourselves in reality. This technology is incredibly powerful, for sure, but it also brings some major challenges that we have to talk about.
Yeah, because building and deploying these systems is definitely not a simple plug-and-play situation. There are some serious obstacles to clear.
And these challenges are pretty significant. For one, the financial investment up front is huge. There's also a massive skills gap. Not enough people know how to build and manage these things yet. Then you get into the giant questions of ethics and accountability. And on top of all that, there are new security risks, like something called prompt injection, which is basically a sneaky way to trick an AI agent into doing something it's not supposed to, like leaking private data.
And this isn't just a hypothetical worry. I mean, you have leading AI pioneers like Yoshua Bengio issuing some pretty stark warnings. What he's saying here is that the very thing that makes agents so powerful, their autonomy, is also what could make them dangerous if we don't build in the right controls.
Which really leaves us with this final critical question. There's a fine line between creating the ultimate productivity tool and building something that acts in ways we never intended and can't control. So, are we building the perfect assistant, or are we accidentally opening Pandora's box? That is both the promise and the peril of agentic AI.